Alright, what's happening everyone? This is William Craddock, WillToWinGaming, here with my 15th place Kuro Regionals deck. I started 7-0, then had some unfortunate matchups, so I'll talk about those going in. Today I'm going to talk about the deck, I'm going to talk a little bit about its matchups, and what you might want to see in your opening hand. I'm not going to go too deep with the play style of each matchup because there's a lot to unpack there and I couldn't get it all into one video. But before we go, I'm going to talk about two people. We got Goka from our Patreon, who I believe placed 7th. Shout outs to him. And we have Batsu. That name should sound familiar. You see Batsu Games, you fire up the sim. He came to us a week ago saying, hey, look, I'm having trouble getting even a 50% win rate on the sim. I want to play a regional next week, and I want to do at least 6-4. We're like, dude, we got you. 6-4? Yeah. So, we do a coaching session with him. We show him a few videos of me playing Kuro. You know what he does? He goes 8-2. Absolutely crushes it. Gets his invites to Nats. And, you know, you're thinking 8-2, maybe he had an easy ride. No, his only 2 losses, both those people end up 9-1, which is insane. Like, that's a difficult schedule. He did really well. We're proud of our patrons. And yeah, if you want to up your game like Batsu did, check out our Patreon and sign up for our coaching. But enough of that. Let's get into it. So this is my Kuro deck. I'll just go through the matchups I played. We'll start with the one everyone hates, Zoro. I played Zoro 3 times over the course of the day. And if you didn't know, Kuro is just... It's a deck that smacks Zoro around, and I think one of the main reasons it does this is because it has really good play against Zoro if you go first or second. So if I win the die roll, I do choose to go first, but if I go second, I'm not sad. The key is just identifying what cards you want for each going first or going second. So if you're on odds, if you will, going first, you're going to be looking for your Namis, your Laws, to bounce your Namis, replay them. And then you're going to be looking for your Shambuchi combo. So one of my favorite things I got to do over the course of the day is I would go on 3 Dawn, attack for 6, play a Nami, and hit Shambuchi. And then on my 5 Dawn turn, I could be like Law, return Nami, play Sham, play Buchi, kill like a buggy. Like, absolutely insane. 3 bodies in the field, get your Nami back in hand. And then you just finish them off with Django in the late game. If you're on odds, you still want your Namis. Shambuchi is still good, of course. But most importantly, you have your turn 3 Kriegs, which this card, also insane against Zoro, because they like to go, attack for 6 my leader, attack for 5 my buggy, attack for 5 my curly. And you're like, well, Krieg, blow up your board. You're going to have to take a turn to reestablish. And on my next turn, I'm going to attack you for 10 twice with double attack because I have a Django in play. Which usually, if they reestablish the board, can just wipe away their entire life. And then, at that point, you can just, hit them for 15 next turn with your Django. Or, 16 with your Krieg. Or 15 with your Krieg and 14 with your Django. You get the idea. But, you might think, hey, well... Film Kid does really well against Zoro, but it gets ranched by Law, right? So you also have playing against Law. Well, the good news is this deck is probably the biggest Law killer in the format. You thought like, oh, Zoro drew 3 Fire Fists, that's good against Law? No. This deck, when played correctly, I mind you, there's a lot of play to this matchup that I had to show Batsu in a 2.5-hour video. This deck absolutely ranches Law. It's probably, to me, the worst matchup in the game. Like, I think it's probably the only true 7-3, maybe 8-2 matchup in the game in Kuro's favor. Like I said, there's a lot of play to it, and there's too much to unpack for this video. But if you want a deck to beat Zoro and Law, sign up for Kuro. Alright? Moving on. Katakuri. Round 8, I was on stream against Katakuri. We were both 7-0 at that point. And we found Kuro's generally, I think, 5-5 to 4-5 against Katakuri, you're in favor because they want to go second, and your game plan against Katakuri favors you going first. So it works out for both parties. I would say when the Katakuri goes above average RNG, then you're not going to win. So in my match in particular, I think the sequence was he hit Cracker out of life into Prospero out of life into Thunderbolt out of life into Shirahoshi out of life. If they do that, I mean, what deck's going to win? No deck's going to win because that's like their nut. That's like their high roll hand, and there's really nothing you can do about it. Almost every deck's going to lose that. Law might be able to survive that and kill them, but almost every deck's just going to lose to that. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, I think average RNG on average RNG, Kuro takes Katakuri to the cleaners. But when Katakuri hits, I'm going to say 4 triggers out of life, you're going to lose, but 3 triggers or less, you're favored. That's generally how I'm going to quantify it, because that's a lot of the matches I found, that's how it's shaken out. So I played 3 Katakuris, 3 Zoros, 2 Laws, and then I played 2 Film Kids, which I thought was interesting. I played a Film Kid with a card I had to read. I think it's called Poison Gas Bomb. Yeah. Anyway, but I do have an interesting story about the first Film Kid I played, which I also think made it on stream. So Film Kid Kuro is a 50-50. It's a coin flip. Really comes down is Kuro drawing Krieg. Krieg is really big in the matchup. And I don't believe I drew it, or I drew it very late in our game. But what happened is, and I use this as a teaching lesson in a lot of other videos, is my opponent had a full board, like 2 5Ks, a 6K, and a blocker Luffy. And I had 1 life after he made a bunch of attacks. And his leader was still standing, right? I think he had full Dawn, his leader's still standing, and he has his 7K and his leader. Now, I don't know his hand. His hand is low. I believe it's 3 cards at this point. But what he does is, and this is where I advise a lot of people don't do this. In my mind, he has the game locked up. But what he does is he puts 2 Dawn under his leader and attacks for 7. Now, I have a grip. Like, my hand is just like 5 2Ks. I'm flush. Like, I'm not dying. He cannot kill me this turn. And so he decides to attack me, and my last life is Punk Gibson and rests his blocker Luffy. Now, his follow-up to this is play a blocker Luffy, pass, right? And my turn, I swing 9 3 times with my leader, and he dies. Now, what I want to tell people, sorry I don't have a visual for this, it's just off the top of my head. What I tell people is, if you're in a position where you have the game locked up, all he has to do is not attack this leader and play another blocker Luffy, and I cannot win. Like, there's no way out. He has a full board, 2 blockers, and that's just something I try to tell people, especially when playing against Law. Like, exercise restraint when attacking their life. I know it's counterintuitive to what people learn when they first start, because a lot of people start with stuff like Zoro, but you don't always have to attack their life, especially if you're ahead and they have 1 life left. You can not attack their last life. In fact, me and Didi were playing last night on the sim. We were practicing some Whitebeard, and we were against Zoro. We had a full board. He'd used most of his hand to block our attacks, and he had 1 life left, and we were kind of low ourselves. So we're like, well, let's just not attack him, right? Because if we gave him a Makino or a Magra he needs, he might be able to kill us. So we just didn't attack his life. And that's just a good lesson. You don't always have to attack. Sorry, a little bit of a rant there. But okay, moving on. Let's talk about some of the bad matchups. So I think Lucci is in general not a favorable matchup. That one really comes down to the die roll. If you get to go second, it's much better than if you don't get to go second. Going second allows you to play Krieg and execute your Krieg Django combo without really giving them a chance to deal with Krieg. Going first, that's not usually how it happens. They can usually deal with your Krieg by the time you get it out. And yeah, so I think black's favored. I think it's 55-45 in black's favor. If you win the die roll, I think it's a true coin flip. Strawbeard, honestly, I didn't have a ton of testing going in against Strawbeard. A lot of people just weren't playing it. On paper, I think Strawbeard's favored. From the matchups Batsu was telling me about, because he played it a few times, is very close. It usually came down to one card, and Strawbeard's hand had to be like a 2K or 1K. But generally on paper, I think Strawbeard's favored. It's probably going to come down to how many triggers are at the end of your life. It's like Punk Gibsons or Karubis, and that will probably determine the game. What other decks can we talk about? There's Garrett Beard, Casino Curry, Lucci. I think that's about it. The things I really like about Kuro is there's the Shambuchi combo, very strong if you get it early. Law, Nami, very strong synergy, of course. Then we got Krieg, Django. This is just your super bomb finisher. Attack for 10, attack for 10, attack for 11, attack for 11, both double attacks. And then, yeah, like I mentioned, if you didn't know this, Kuro's ability is not once per turn. So you can attack for 9 3 times as long as you have enough, like, Nami's, Pearls, Karubis, Shambuchi sitting out. And that's really the deck. I really like Kuro, and I'm probably going to run it back at Gen Con. It's just, it's very player dependent. Like, I've played Kuros that play completely different from me, and I think it's a little rough how they play it. You know, and this is a different build. I'm talking they're playing like Alvita, and they're playing some event that lets you restand your leader by resting one guy. I think this is the build for Kuro. I really think this build was excellent. I opted for 4 laws instead of the 3 Tony, 3 law, where my teammate played the 3-3 split. I just wanted to make sure if I went first, I had a law or a Django on turn 3. That was really important to a lot of my games. So that's what I would mulligan into, looking for these. And yeah, that's the deck. I would recommend it. I think it takes a lot of practice. I don't think it's as forgiving as something like Film Kid or, you know, Zoro. I think this deck does take a bit of practice, but I do think it's also worth it. And yeah, thanks for watching. This is my Kuro video. Like I said, don't forget to check out our Patreon. Not only are we doing monthly giveaways on our Patreon now, monthly giveaways, our coaching's exploding, and we are getting results. We're getting True Blue results. These people that are joining are saying, I can barely win at my locals, are now winning store championships, going 8-2 at regionals. Like, we stand by our product, guys. Like, if you want to get better, if you truly want to get better, we will coach you and you'll get better. We have private channels for all our coaching tiers. So after your session, you can leave questions. And then if we have, like, I make extra videos that are just for the team. And if, like, you're a Whitebeard player and I make some Whitebeard videos, I'll throw them in your coaching channel. So that's just extra free content for you for being a coaching tier. And yeah, that's my video. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Kuro, and I hope I can put up some results this weekend at Gen Con. If I can't, I will probably switch to Dofi. So yeah, see y'all next time.